most common complaints I've had from so many men is, well, I try to be vulnerable, and then my wife or my girlfriend didn't like it, and she had this thing to say. So that's why you can't be vulnerable. And I'm like, that doesn't sound very much like the man you want to be who lets external forces dictate what they do.
Hmm.
So again, kind of back to that, where is it coming from? And it's like, you know what? Even in the face of that, okay, and I agree. Like society has this terrible narrative. A lot of the times, it's like, hey, you need to step up and be a man, and then a man tries to step up and be a man, and then we're ridiculed. Oh, look at you, manly man. And well, like, okay, which is it? And it's like we can complain about that, and understandably so, but you can opt out of that game
Hmm.
because that's what it is in some sense. And so guys will start complaining, well, they have this, they pin us against these two things. They want us to step up and be a man, and they ridicule us. And now we can't do it. It's like, who says that they get to decide how you get to be a man?
Right.
And I do believe that in any in a relationship that has any degree of health between a man and a woman, the woman is essentially, and we know this psychologically and even mythologically, is that she's sort of a barometer. And I wrote about this in the book, but she's this barometer of whether or not I'm moving towards my magnificence as a man or away from it.
Hmm.
And that's experienced in my relation to her. And if I am experiencing love and appreciation from her, then that's an indication that I'm moving towards that most magnificent self. And maybe I can say that's because I'm being conscious and I'm coming from a place of strength. And if I'm moving away from that, I'm probably going to experience that with, tension with her and challenges from her. So it's understanding sort of this, there's this facade of these challenges that we experience. And what happens is that we take it from the surface level and say, well, they're just making it impossible. Why can't they just make it easy on me? And I'm like, nothing worthwhile has ever come easy. Like we all know that. We'll spout that, yet we'll go home and buckle down and not know how to act with our wives. And so, where am I coming from that? What am I seeing? Am I seeing, well, I started off in the book with this sort of notion of the feminine dragon of chaos emerging from the dungeon from her sleep and finding herself in this modern world that she's been sort of tucked away for 2,000 years. And so there's this imagery here where she's come to the surface, and it's 2024, and she doesn't even speak the same language. She speaks a language it's a dead language, all things considered.
Hmm.
And so she's out looking for her masculine counterpart. Where is he? Where is he? And then people are like, "Oh, what's going on here? We don't even understand you, and we're afraid, or at least we just think you're annoying and you're a pest." And so the feminine dragon of chaos gets more and more angry and upset. And so who's going to come, you know, tame this dragon, so to speak? Because what happens, and the reason I say it's feminine, because it represents, the unconscious, chaos, and within the unconscious, what is that? Like there's this beautiful, whole, and intact woman waiting inside, say, the belly of the dragon, waiting to be cut out. And all we see is the dragon sometimes in these challenges that piss us off or hurt our feelings or dictate who we are as a man, instead of seeing like, oh, here's this thing. Because I know that there's more to these challenges with my wife or whoever. And if I learn how to sort of get through to that and pull her and free the captive woman out of that, the true who she has the potential to be, because she can't do it herself in some sense. She has to have, just like we have to have the stage of the relationship to be the man that we could, she has to have the stage of relationship to become the woman that she could, to fully develop herself psychologically and spiritually. So there's this sort of mythological undertone in our relationships, and we think it's silly and goofy and absurd. But if you pay attention to that and really consider how that's playing out in your own relationship, you'll start to figure out, like, okay, this really is playing out this way. It's like, yeah, there's the things that we're doing in the real world, but if I understand what's truly happening on a fundamental level, then it changes the whole game. And I think it's, well, the book sort of sets you up with that idea. But again, it's like maybe part of what it means to be a man in this world is knowing what game to play and what game you need to opt out of. Because if the world dictates who you are, that's because allow it to let it dictate who you are.